Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, hopefully having an amazing day. The majority of this video is going to focus on the RTX 5070, 5070 Ti and also some 5060 stuff because lots of specifications and other information have actually leaked of these upcoming GPUs. But I want to begin actually with the 5090 because there's a couple of very intriguing things that have happened. The first is that Comino, who is basically a system integrator, have actually provided you the ability to pre-order a system which features 8, I'm going to repeat that, 8 RTX 5090 GPUs, and there's an image of sorts that goes along with this. I want to give credit to WCCF Tech where I spotted this. This is obviously a workstation, so I don't really need to tell you guys that this is absolutely a behemoth of a system. I will actually be very interested to see how popular these graphics cards are with AI enthusiasts as well as people doing other things like 3D rendering and so on and so forth. Now obviously the fact that these cards have so much VRAM, 32 gigabytes, I think it's fair to say that they're going to be very popular with a plethora of content creators as well as once again for AI and other things. But while we're on the subject for the RTX 5090, I also want to give you guys an update to its nice package size. Basically Mega Size GPU or Zed Wang on Twitter, who I follow and I'd recommend you guys do as well if you want GPU related stuff, has stated that the GB202 die size is 24 by 31. So this basically means, assuming this information is correct, and obviously I can't confirm this right now, we're looking at just over 740 square millimeters for its size. Now, I know what you guys are going to say, well, dude, how big is that? And I'm sure you use the word dude as well, I'm certain of it. So if we compare that to the RTX 4090's AD102, that's around 600. And meanwhile, the card that is actually, or shall I say the chip that's actually the closest, and by the way, I'm going to round up and down the numbers here, just for my sanity, if no one else's, you're looking at around 750. So yes, this is basically just a titchy bit smaller than TU102, but the package size is 63 by 56, so obviously the package is much larger than the die size, as you would expect. Now, the bulk of this video I want to actually dedicate to a very interesting article which is on BenchLife. Now, BenchLife unfortunately is not an English website. I say unfortunately because, well, I can't read any other language too well other than English. A little bit of German, but that's beside the point. I'll leave, of course, a link to this in the video description, so much of what I'm going to say here is being translated using ChatGPT, so we can be 100% certain that there is absolutely no mistakes whatsoever, right? Now, there is a lot of information here, but basically just for the second I'm going to skip over the specifications stuff and instead I'm going to focus on the release information because otherwise we're going to be going backwards and forwards. So based on current AIC and passive component agents, Nvidia will launch the complete lineup of RTX 50 cards in the first half of 2025. Now here they are not mentioning anything about the RTX super cards. However, I've heard through the grapevine, although this is not double sourced or anything, so it could potentially be wrong, that there will be a super series of RTX 50 cards. Honestly, this has happened several times at this point, so I'm leaning towards it being true, even though I've only had a single source, but they say it's not going to be any time sooner than 1 year. So basically this is something that's probably going to happen in like the first half of 2026, but don't quote me on that because that is only a single source. But historically we've seen Nvidia do this now for what, like 3 generations or so. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, getting back to the specifications, the release dates, if I can speak. The 5090, 5090D, which of course is going to be a cut down variant for China, as well as the 5080 and even the 5070 Ti and the 5070, they should all launch in the first quarter. The 5060 Ti as well as the 5060, however, do seem to be a little bit delayed. What is, however, uncertain at this point is whether we will see the 5070 Ti as well as the 5070 being announced at CES, or if it's only going to be the 5070, or whether it's not going to be those two cards and they are announced later. But basically by the end of the first half, we will see pretty much all of the GPUs that most gamers anyway will want to purchase. But what about the specifications, my friends? I won't go too extensively over the higher end variants because we've discussed those quite, well, a lot, to be honest with you guys. And the specifications that benchlife.info have stated are exactly the same as what we've been saying over the past, several months. For example, the fact that the CUDA cores count is 21,760 or 170 SM, 32 gigabytes of memory with a 600 watt TGP for the 5090. But you may recall that videocards.com yesterday basically leaked the existence of the 5070 Ti, and they stated that the GPU would feature 70 SM or 8,960 CUDA cores. But they have also provided us updates to the memory configuration, so it does seem that my guess yesterday that it's going to have 16 gigabytes of memory is correct. So yes, we have the 5070 Ti and the 5080 basically using the same memory configuration. I'll be very curious to see whether the clock frequency for the 5070 Ti's memory is a little slower. Meanwhile, the 5070 cuts things down to just 6,400 CUDA cores. Now, 6,400 CUDA cores is 50 SM, just for your point of reference. And what I've gone ahead and done is on Nvidia's RTX 4070 family webpage, you can actually see a nice comparison of all of the different 4070 class cards. So we've got the Ti Super, the Ti, the 4070 Super, as well as the 4070 Vanilla. So just for example, the 4070 here has 5,888 CUDA cores, or 46 SM, unless my math is not mathing. Meanwhile, the second card up, so this would be the 4070 Super, has 7,168 SM. So the configurations here are going to be very interesting to see how they compare against the previous generation, and that's putting it very mildly. Of course, once again, SM count is not the only thing we need to take into consideration. There's things like architectural improvements, which I'm sure are going to be decent to substantial depending on who you believe. Second point, obviously the clock frequency is going to be higher, and also slightly related but not 100% to that, obviously we also have cache as well. So obviously if you have, like, let's just hypothetically say a larger L2 cache and other bits and bobs on the GPU are just more efficient, then it could be that we just simply see higher performance. And obviously Nvidia are not just targeting raster performance anyway. We have things like DLSS. It'll be interesting to see if we see DLSS 4 announced, and if so, does DLSS 4 work better, quote unquote, on the 50 series, or is it identical across the variants between the 40 and 50 cards? And also, what about ray tracing performance and so on and so on? So at this point, my thoughts here are very similar to what I've mentioned before. Basically, the 5090 to 5080, the drop-off is just, to use the exact same expression as I said in yesterday's video, it's basically like falling from Mount Everest, and then you are gonna land up in like the Grand Canyon. So it's not even that you just hit like sea level, you keep going down, my friend. It is absolutely absurd. You literally get half the amount of VRAM. Obviously, we don't know about memory speed yet 100%, and to be fair, any of these specifications can change, but you're essentially cutting the core count by half, and then obviously it goes down, I would say, a decent chunk for the 5070 Ti, and then the 5070 just strangles it. Now, personally, I would love to have seen the 5090 sport 32 gigabytes of memory. The CUDA core count, okay, we'll just keep that as is. And I would have loved for the 5080 to have probably been bumped up to 20 gigabytes at minimum, but ideally, or realistically, depending on your perspective, frankly I think realistically, 24 gigabytes of memory and a CUDA core count that's like, I don't want to be too greedy, but like 20% minimum? So if it had like 13,000, 14,000 CUDA cores, I'll be like, okay, that's pretty decent. But the drop off for that is just, it's just so big. I really want to know the pricing. And speaking of pricing, this is the final kick in the balls for you guys, okay? So at the moment, your left ball has been kicked, so I'm about to give you the kick on the right one. Or, I don't know, if you're a woman, I guess it'll be your shins, so take it or leave it. But anyway, yeah, I'm in a weird mood today, don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm about to give you guys the final kick in the shin for this video. This is the final kick, I promise. Basically, they mention that according to the sources over at BenchLife, obviously it fully adopts the PCIe 5 specification, but the entirety of the switch to GDDR7, basically, in other words, the cost of the 50 series cards is going to be much higher than that of the 40 series card. Again, I'm using ChatGPT for the translation here, so if someone can natively speak or read Chinese and they can issue a correction down below, that would be absolutely amazing. But they are stating that there's going to be a big cost difference, but how much more expensive the series is going to be, there won't be, quote, an answer soon. It will be revealed at CES. Earlier news confirmed that Nvidia will announce the 50 series with the Blackwell GPU at CES, and AMD is also expected to unveil its next generation of RX cards. So basically, a lot of the cost here seems to be on the bill of materials. Now, obviously, Nvidia are making quite a decent profit, so maybe some of this will be eaten into with their profits. With that said, I think because the 5090 is going to be so sought after, I'm going to be very curious to see the number of those cards that are available. I get this horrible feeling that there could be shortages. That is not a leak. I want to be clear here. I don't have any idea what the numbers are going to be. However, it would make a lot of sense to me that these things are going to get just gobbled up by system integrators or companies who want to do AI things, because at the end of the day, yes, they are expensive, but if you compare them to Nvidia's, like, well, you know, dedicated AI cards for data center, they're much cheaper. Obviously, there are some differences in the specifications and, you know, memory capacities and all that stuff, but that's just my thought process. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on this, guys. Apologies for not being on camera. This has been one of those days. I'm just kind of, like, I wasn't actually expecting to do another update video. I was actually working on something unrelated to this, but I really want to talk about this because I found a couple of these elements very interesting, notably the specification differences between a couple of the models. Now we've got further clarification of that, but also the fact that this is also saying that these cards are going to be more expensive. And this actually could be good for AMD, because obviously the rumor is that RDNA 4 is going to be utilizing GDDR6 memory. So I don't know what the cost difference between these two that AMD and Nvidia are paying respectively to their, you know, memory vendors. But it's very possible that AMD could do some very aggressive prices, as well as actually Intel, to be fair, for Battle Mage. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one, guys. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.